Okay, it's 5 o'clock by my clock, and I hope everyone is ready for our meeting. I'd like to welcome everybody to the January 19th, 2021 meeting of the Utility Service Board. Our first order of business is to approve the minutes from the previous meeting of January 4th. Are there any questions from the board?
Amanda?
I see Julie has a question. Julie?
Well, I noticed the first motion was Sherman motioning and Parmenter seconding, and then all the ones on the claim should be Roberts motioning and Parmenter seconding. That's the only thing I saw.
Great, thank you. So the correction will be made to the minutes. Are there any other corrections to the minutes? All right, seeing none, I'll call for approval of the minutes with the proposed changes. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second, thank you. So the minutes from last meeting are approved. Our next.
Can I have to call the roll? Sorry, guys.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, this is my first time doing this. Sorry,
right.
call the roll.
All right, let me make sure everyone's here. All right, so Eamon.
Yes.
Roberts.
Yes.
Burnham.
Yes.
Bannock.
Yes.
And Sherman.
Yes.
And Parmenter.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so the minutes are approved. Our next item on the agenda is to approve the claims. So the first thing is the payable invoices. There are actually two sets of invoices that are in there that we're going to be approving. The first one are the payables from 2020, and that has that total is $1,643,803.61. Do I have any questions on the claims? Seeing none, I'll call for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Will you call the roll?
Parmenter.
Yes.
Eamon.
Yes.
Roberts.
Yes.
Burnham.
Yes.
Bannock.
Yes.
Sherman.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so the first round of payables are approved. Now the second round of payables are for the 2021 calendar year, and those are totaling for $101,309.80. Are there any questions on those invoices? Seeing none, I'll call for a motion to approve.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Sherman.
Yes.
Roberts.
Yes.
Burnham.
Yes.
Bannock.
Yes.
Eamon.
Yes.
Parmenter.
Yes.
Thank you.
Payables are approved. Our next item is the standard invoices, and those total $11,153.53. Are there any questions on the standard invoices? Seeing none, I'll call for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
And now for the roll.
Bannock.
Yes.
Eamon.
Yes.
Sherman.
Yes.
Burnham.
Yes.
Roberts.
Yes.
And Parmenter.
Yes.
Thank you.
And the standard invoices are approved. Our next item are the utility bills for a total of $101,309.80. Did I do that one already, or no, we're good, right? Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Are there any questions on utility bills? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
And call the roll.
Parmenter.
Yes.
Roberts.
Yes.
Eamon.
Yes.
Bannock.
Yes.
Sherman.
Yes.
Burnham.
Yes.
Thank you.
Utility bills are approved. The next item are the wire transfers for a total of $559,813.99. Are there any questions about the wire transfers? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Latrina, please call the roll.
Bannon,
Yes.
Parmenter,
Yes.
Burnham,
Yes.
Eman,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Roberts.
Yes.
Thank you.
Wire transfers are approved. And the last claims are the customer refunds for a total of $3,159.06. Are there any questions about the customer refunds? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Latrina, please call the roll.
Sherman,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Parmenter,
Yes.
Bannon, Eman.
Yes.
Thank you.
Our next item is the approval of the consent agenda, and I'll turn that over to Vic Kelson.
You're muted.
Vic, you're muted. There we go.
Good. Good evening, everyone. I'm happy to bring the consent agenda for tonight. It totals $14,522.78. The first item is to Terminix for $4,500. That's pest control at Dillman wastewater treatment plant. We have an on-call contract for $5,000 a year for Terminix, and then a $392.40 contract item C for pest control at Blucher Pool. We have a contract for to Perfect Power Incorporated for $7,249.98 for annual preventive maintenance on UPS units. Hollers Welding, $8,500 for rotary screen repairs at Dillman. Miller Pipeline, there's a credit of $35,919.60 as a change order for the sewer rehab in 2019 and 2020. And then ours, Andritz Ruthner Incorporated. This is service work for the Comline Belt Press at the Blucher Pool plant, and that's $24,800. Are there any board members who would like to consider any of these items separately? Seeing none, if there's no opposition, these items will all be approved as recommended by staff. Hearing no opposition, these items are approved. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Vic. Our next item on the agenda is the request for the approval of Resolution 2021-1, recommending the water case rate and form of ordinance to the City Council. Sorry. So I do want to put a little bit of order in this so that we are all on the same page of how we're going to do this, because this is a very important discussion, and since we can't have it in person and doing it here in Zoom is not the best way, but in order to be able to recognize individuals who may have questions, we'd like Vic and staff to be able to give their report in its entirety. If you have questions or comments, please just make note of them, and then we will come back to you at the end of the report to get those questions or comments. If you are watching this via Zoom or Facebook Live and you have a question, you're certainly welcome to enter it in, but please note that we're not going to get to those questions until the end of the presentations. We just want to try to run this efficiently as possible and be able to respond to any questions that you may have. So we'll do Vic's presentation first from the staff. Then we are going to have the report from the Finance Subcommittee Chair, which is Jim Sherman. He'll give his report. Then we will take any questions from the board, and then we'll do, we'll have the opportunity for public comment after that. So if everyone is in agreement with that, we'll also at some point here, depending on if there are a lot of questions from the public, we may put a time limit on that, but we'll just kind of see how things start playing out. I do see that there's some new names out there on the Zoom call. I don't know if there's a lot of new faces out there on the Facebook call, but we do want to make sure that everyone knows that we will be responding to your questions, but to please give the speakers the opportunity to finish their presentations. So with that, I'll turn this over to Vic and staff.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Is it okay? Is it okay with you if I make a statement at this time?
Sure. Go ahead, Jason.
Thank you. I just want to alert the board that due to the fact that my employer is CBU's largest customer and that I am involved in deliberations related to this rate increase with my employer, it's out of an abundance of caution that I'll be recusing myself from this discussion and abstaining from the vote. So thank you for your consideration, Madam Chair.
Yes, absolutely, Jason. You're still going to stay in the call here, correct? You're just...
Yes, wouldn't miss it for the world.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jason. We appreciate that and appreciate the work that you do with us on the committee. So thank you.
I guess it's me.
Yes, sorry, Vic. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. For people who haven't been to many of these meetings, I'm Vic Kelson, the Director of Utilities for the city. With me, I have some staff, Laura Pettit and Brad Schrader, who both worked on preparing this rate review. We also have Brandon Prince and James Hall, and not with us tonight due to another commitment is Tom Axum. So those are all our 5 assistant directors. We also have with us Craig Lotz and Jennifer Wilson from Crow, who did the financial analysis, and Mark Beauchamp from Utility Finance, UFS. What is the S? Systems? Services? Anyway, Mark is here as well. What I'd like to do first is go over the overall plan, how we got here. And to begin with, in 2016, we did our last water rate review. Our objectives at the time were financial stabilization, to take some big steps in improving drinking water quality, particularly dealing with the disinfection byproduct problem, implementation of a smart metering infrastructure, replacing aging infrastructure throughout our system, and to improve our asset management planning. That resulted in an across-the-board increase of 22% at the time. When we did this, the council asked us to bring rate cases on a more regular basis and not stagger them with such long gaps in between. So we decided to do them every 4 years. We had intended to do this rate review and bring a rate case in 2020. With the COVID coming on the scene, we decided to delay that into 2021. Oops. We had a number of big capital projects that resulted from that 2016 rate case. As you all know, we've just recently finished the advanced metering infrastructure project. That project ended up under budget. We've purchased the CityWorks software for our asset management system. We're currently implementing it. We're deploying it for the linear infrastructure. That's the buried pipes and pumps and valves and so forth. And we're in the process of training staff to use it now. We'll be working on the plans next. And then the city's never had a comprehensive water main replacement program. Nationwide, it's estimated that there's in excess of $3 trillion worth of aging water mains that need to be replaced. Here in Bloomington, about a quarter of our pipe is on the order of 70 years old or so. These pipes have rated life expectancies of about 100 years. And so we began replacing water mains in 2017 after the rate case. We're spending Excuse me? Okay, we're spending about $1.7 million per year on water main replacement. That turns out to be about 2 miles or a little bit more than 2 miles per year. So right now we're on about a 200-year replacement schedule. So we feel the need to accelerate that program. We also encountered some unexpected capital spending. We found that mercury had been spilled inside the Griffey water treatment plant. By the time we remediated the site, deconstructed the plant, and disposed of everything, it was about $1.5 million. They discovered lead in the soils at the former Dyer tank site. That lead came from lead paint that had been sandblasted off the tank. It cost us about $250,000 to do that remediation project. And we've been doing lots of capital replacements to try and catch our vehicles, pumps, and other process equipment and get those all caught up. We've also implemented a number of cost-saving measures. I won't go through in detail here, but we've itemized a bunch of them, and I'll share the presentation with everyone when we're done. So T&D, obviously vehicle reassessment and so forth. We've done solar panel projects through all three of our plants and the service center, Monroe and Dillman plants, and the Southeast tank, plus the service center. And right now we're implementing a lab information monitoring system at the labs. In engineering, we've eliminated one of our lift stations. We're moving towards paperless plan review, and we've started using C900 plastic pipe for water main replacements. So that's lower cost and easier to install. And then in finance, the big thing has been AMI, but we've also done a number of other cost-saving measures. So we can talk more in detail about these if anyone wishes to at the end. So the question is, why do a rate case now? The first reason is that council asked us to do it on a regular basis. So we promised every 4 years, and we've delayed, as I mentioned a moment ago. The other thing is that this year we know we've got uncertainty about revenues this year, but that we think that's a transient thing. We're at the end of our rate cycle. So after 4 years of increasing operation and maintenance costs, we have less money left at the end of every year for the extension and replacements budget. That is capital replacements and plant improvements and process improvements throughout the system. One of the things that's important is when you bring a rate case, it has to go through, for water anyway, it has to go through the board, the council, and then it goes to the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission. A case that we bring to the commission, anytime you do a rate case, it's based on a test year that's supposed to be representative of your financials. We set up our test year to end on March 31st, 2020. After that, the rest of 2020 was anything but representative. So since IURC wants the test year to be within a year of when we bring the case, we're kind of at the end of our time for this. So we're trying to get this submitted to the commission by the end of March, just to make sure that we don't get ourselves into a pickle going forward. A brief illustration of the O&M inflation. You can see salaries and wages have been going up. Materials and supplies have been going up on a regular basis, and other services have been up and down more or less flat through the period. But you can see these have increased substantially. We also have capital plans for the coming year. The big items will be capital improvements at Monroe. A lot of these have come out of efforts to reduce disinfection byproducts, especially the sludge dewatering improvements. Some of the things we had to do to deal with DBPs led to more sludge to manage, especially in the summertime. We are far overdue for a filter media replacement. That's about $0.8 million. And our standby generators need to be improved and renovated as well. We also want to increase our investment in the water main replacement program, going to $2 million in 2022, $3 million in 2020, to up to $23 million in 2025. Our goal is to get to the point where we're establishing a 100-year replacement cycle. And on an ongoing basis, we expect that to be growing more on the order of inflation rather than to have to do any major new increases in real terms. We're also continuing to plan for the redevelopment of the Winston Thomas property to meet future facilities requirements for the utilities as a whole. Again, I have the capital replacement plan here. We won't go into detail about it as part of the presentation, but if there are questions, please bring them up. And we do intend to do bonding to pay for the capital program, and we have the revenue bonds information here. Our folks from Crow can answer any questions about that when we get to the end. So overall, our revenue requirements are set up in two phases. The phase one would happen shortly after the IURC ultimately approves the rates. That they have 300 days after we submit, which essentially gets us just to the end of 2021 or maybe early in 2022. So from if you're handicapping, I would think right around the beginning of 2022 is when that might go into effect. That will cover the bond issue for capital improvement, increased O&M expenses, and then funding for the AMI and solar leases. The second phase would be would cover the extensions replacements for the ongoing water main replacement program. There's an overview of the revenue requirements here. If there are questions, detailed questions about this, we can ask Jennifer or Laura to take those up at the end. So overall, this rate case is a 22.2% increase in revenues. That is distributed across our various customer classes. The last time we did a rate review in a rate case, we increased all the classes across the board at the same amount. We were asked at the time by members of the board and members of the council to do a cost of service study on our next rate case. The purpose of a cost of service study is to make the price of water for each of the customer classes reflect the cost of serving that particular customer class. So this is all based on a methodology that's published by the American Water Works Association, and Mark Beauchamp, who's on the call, did our cost of service analysis for this rate case. What this means is that if you have an overall 22% rate increase, revenue increase, some classes will pay more, some classes will pay less, and that will be all reflected in the cost of providing the service to each of the customer classes. We can't make a profit. At this point, the way our rates are structured, the residential customers, both single family and multifamily, are relatively overpriced compared to their cost of service. All our other customer classes are relatively underpriced compared to their cost of service. What that means is our residential customers are subsidizing the industrial, the commercial, the institutional, and irrigation and wholesale water prices. So what we're trying to do is take steps to move CBU to a cost of service based pricing model. At the end of the cost of service analysis, the overall increases come out in the two phases as shown here. Currently, the commodity charge per 1,000 gallons of water for residential and multifamily is $3.73. After two phases, it would go up to $4.33 for an overall increase of about 16%. Commercial, governmental, and interdepartmental would be an increase of 33%. Industrial, based simply on cost of service, would be an increase of about 51%. For wholesale, it would be about 33%. For Indiana University, it would be about 40%. And the irrigation, it would be 165%. And I'll pause for a moment here to reflect on the irrigation increase. The reason for this is that if you look at the capacity of our plant and our infrastructure, we have to size the plant and all the other infrastructure for the largest demand days. And our largest demand days are in the summertime when there's a lot of watering going on. And those days average as much as, well, our peak is about 25 million gallons per day. Our average is around 20. The rest of the year, we average around 15. So about 20 to 25% of our overall capacity in the system, that is all the built infrastructure and the plant, it has been built to supply that extra increment in capacity is there only to serve irrigation. That's why this number is so far off. So given the analysis from the cost of service study, we developed a rate request in cooperation with our contractors. We noticed the big changes and we made some adjustments. The first one is we structured all the changes so that none of the categories gets an increase of more than 20% in either of the phases. By doing that, all the categories will be being charged cost of service pricing after phase 2, except for irrigation and residential. Irrigation will still be low and residential will still be subsidizing irrigation. But staff considered it impractical to ask the irrigation customers to take on a 165% rate increase at this time. We also proposed to merge the industrial category with the commercial category. The reason for this is that our industrial class is very small compared to the commercial category. And because it's small, changes that may happen with either the size of that class or the cost of service to that class would be spread across, or the increases in cost of service for that class would be spread over a very small community. So we're recommending that the industrial category simply be merged and that they, at the end of phase 2, would be paying the same rate as the commercial category. This has a almost negligible effect on the rate for the commercial category. So this is our proposed rate schedule. We would be seeing for residential overall, this for metered sales, this is per 1,000 gallons. We would go for residential from $3.73 to $4.54. That's an overall increase of 21.7%. However, you'll see in a moment that their costs for the fixed costs of the meter and the fire protection don't grow that much. For commercial, governmental, and interdepartmental, it would total out to a 32.9% increase, which is comparable to the 33% we saw a moment ago. For industrial, it would be a 44% increase, and at the end of phase 2, they would be paying the same per 1,000 gallons as commercial and governmental. The wholesale customers would get a 33.1% increase. Indiana University would be 39.7. Sorry, and the total for irrigation would be right about 44%. When we look at our customer impacts, as I mentioned a moment ago, there's a site charge and a fire charge also in the cost of service for residential customers. So when we take all of that into account, our residential customers would experience an increase from of $3.74 per month for 3,500 gallons of usage, which is our average. That's around 16% for a 5/8 inch meter, and a smaller percentage increase up of $3.16 per month for a home that's served with a 3/4 inch meter. Just a comparison of where we stand with other utilities. If you see down at the lower left right now, if the standard that the state reports, this is based on a 5,000 gallon usage, not 3,500. Right now, our water service for 5,000 gallons is $26.50. It would increase us from being at the top of the bottom quarter to just below the midpoint statewide. But you'll notice that 3 of the utilities that are above us in this table are also pursuing rate cases right now. So chances are we would end up probably around in the 1/3 range, right at the 1/3 mark statewide. We have been reaching out to stakeholders. We've had 3 meetings of the finance subcommittee with, and there's been public input in those meetings. We've also had separate meetings with Indiana University. We had a meeting for our wholesale customers. We had our open house on the 7th, and as I said, we did 3 finance subcommittee meetings. Here's our calendar for the whole process. You can see right now we're on USB final action for January 19th. Assuming this is approved in some form tonight, it would go to council for first reading on February 3rd. Council committee review would happen in the weeks after that. They'll announce the schedule when they know it. And then final action would be by the first week of March. After we get approval from council, we would move to file with IURC as soon as we can after that, with public hearings to be announced by the IURC. So that's the end of my formal presentation. We're happy to take any questions that members may have. And also, I guess we need to hear from the subcommittee. So I'll stop here and let you take it away. Thank you, Amanda.
Okay, so now I'll call on Jim Sherman to give the report from the Finance Subcommittee. But before Jim starts, if there are questions from the public, you are welcome to start entering them on either the Facebook chat or on the Zoom chat as well. So if you will be recognized after we get through the presentations from the board and the subcommittee.
Jeff, you have a question?
Yes. Is it okay for board members to ask questions now?
Actually, Jeff, we're going to wait until after Jim gives the report from the finance subcommittee, and I'll put you on as the first person for a question.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, the subcommittee, the finance subcommittee, which consists of Amanda Burnham and Megan Parmenter and me, have now had 3 separate meetings. Today was the 3rd. And at those meetings, we've had presentations by Vic Helson, similar to the one that he just gave. We've had discussions with Chris Wheeler, the attorney for CBU. And we've asked a number of questions about the changes, the rate increases, and about the cost of service study. The folks who conducted that were also present at these meetings. Let me give a little bit of overview. A few years ago, 3-4 years ago, we had an increase in these rates. And one of the reasons for the necessity was that prior to that, there hadn't been any increase in rates for, I believe, at least 10 years. So I think the Utility Service Board and CBU had kind of fallen down on keeping the rates where they needed to be, given all of the projects that needed to be done. And we decided at that time that we would have rate increase discussions every 3 to 4 years, which is what we're doing now. And we're on a consistent schedule for water, sewer, and stormwater. The reason for the necessity for the current increase is basically because of all of the projects that are necessary. I think if people expect, and they should expect, clean water and expect our infrastructure not to fall apart and have water main breaks all the time, then we need to keep up with this. Remember, our infrastructure, a lot of it is rather old by now. And if we do nothing, it will fall apart and will cost more in the long run. On the good news side is that after this set of projects, we believe that the necessity for cost increases will greatly flatten out. And by the time we have our next one, we expect that it will be primarily cost of living kind of increase. So that's the rationale for why we're doing this. And that was discussed in detail at these meetings. We also discussed the cost of service study and the necessity, as Vic pointed out. Up until now, residential users have been subsidizing all other categories of users. And that's simply not fair to our residential users. So in making this increase, our goal was to, as much as possible, have various categories pay their fair share in a sense. And we were able to do this for all categories except irrigation because the cost increase would be way too much. But we hope by the time there is another rate change proposal that everything will be in line with the cost of service. So, you know, it's a matter of, the increases are a matter of two things. Number one, making sure we're able to conduct all of the projects that need to be done. And second, to make the cost of service be fair to all categories. The subcommittee, as I said, met 3 times, listened to the presentations, the rationale, looked at the numbers, and although we did not conduct a formal vote, I believe it's fair to say that the 3 members felt that the request is fair and in line with our goals. So with that, I will, or Vic can, or Chris can, or Amanda can answer questions, first of all, from other USB members, and then we'll move beyond that.
Thank you, Jim. That was an excellent recap of all of our meetings, and appreciate all of the work you've done. So keeping to my promise, I'm going to call on Jeff Eman first because he had a question. So Jeff.
Yeah, thank you. Well, so we have done a couple rate increases since 2010-ish. So we did have a pretty long lag for that first one. But we've been talking about cost of services studies for 12 years now. And I am very pleased that we are finally going to be implementing something close to cost-based rates. And I'm encouraged that we have a commitment from staff and the administration to move to fully cost-based rates the next time. And I understand that it may be impracticable now, or as past administrations have stated, unrealistic and untenable, or maybe more honestly, just not politically palatable. And we're getting beyond that now. And again, it's a day that when we use terms in the whereases like just and non-discriminatory, I can stand behind that now, and I'm proud to be a board member today, and I'll vote in favor of this rate increase as stated. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Jeff. Are there any other questions from any board members? I see Julie Roberts. Julie?
Thanks, Amanda. I have a couple of questions. Does irrigation include residents who are watering their lawns, or just residents with irrigation systems?
It includes only irrigation systems that have their own and separate meter.
So other than golf courses in the city of Bloomington, who else has irrigation systems? We don't have any agricultural irrigation going on, do we?
Actually, IU is our largest irrigation customer. Our second largest is City of Bloomington Parks and Rec. Our third largest is MCCSC, and our fourth largest is Monroe County Parks and Rec. And then the Golf Club, the Country Club. So we do have customers that do a lot of irrigation, but we just didn't, there's a lot to chew here for everybody. And we just thought that going all the way to a complete cost-based pricing for irrigation seemed to be more than anybody could budget for. I think what we've done here is we've taken a sizable step in that direction, and we've defined where things might end up in the future. So people who are irrigators would have, this rate cycle is going to be 4 years long. So there would be plenty of time, we hope, to make plans for whatever changes people might want to make in their irrigation systems in time to be able to handle that.
Well, and that makes perfect sense to me. I wasn't questioning that at all. I think 165% is just too much for anybody to plan for. But I agree with Jeff. I really strongly support not subsidizing one class with another. There's no way that the families should be paying so that other groups can have lower rates. So I'm thrilled that we're finally doing this, and thanks for the information. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Julie. I see Jim Sherman has his hand up next.
I think this is correct. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but although IU does a lot of irrigation, they fall under a separate category and they're not included in the irrigation amounts. Is that correct?
IU has regular usage meters and irrigation usage.
I see. I said that fall under two categories.
Yes.
Thank you.
Even if irrigation ultimately gets to the cost of service amount, it would still be a smaller number than water plus sewer. Because the big difference, one of the big differences about the irrigation rate is that water purchased from an irrigation meter does not go to the sewer. So there's no sewer charge at all on that.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, then I will entertain my couple of questions here. Vic, I know that we've had some conversations ongoing with the commercial and industrial groups in having that merge happen of those two classes. Have those conversations begun?
We've reached out. We haven't gotten a response from anyone up to this point, but we'll try again.
Okay.
To get hold of them. The reason for merging the classes is really to mitigate the impacts on the small industrial class, and so we will. Oh, I apologize. We did do an event with the Chamber of Commerce. That was how we did it. It wasn't any specifically with customers. It was with the chamber. We explained the process to them and our goals in this whole effort. So yeah, we did meet with the chamber about it.
And then my second question is, realizing that if this does go through to City Council and our council approves it and it does go to the IURC for their review, when would if everything goes through, when would customers expect to take on these increases in their bills?
It would be presumably around the beginning of 2022, and then phase 2 would happen in 2024.
Okay.
And of course, the proposal can be modified on the way through. IURC usually makes some adjustments as they go through their process. So these numbers are probably not final.
Well, and I think that's important for people to understand and the public to understand, is that there is a process for additional people to be reviewing this. And it could be that these numbers don't come through, but we're at least as an organization putting this through as what we think we need to do to continue to sustain the improvements that need to happen to our infrastructure, and yet while at the same time keep the rates applicable to the various classes that are paying for those rates. And the last question I have, and this is probably a basic question, but it's just really for those out there who might be watching, and that is, how does one know what size meter they have on their house?
I believe it's on your water bill. Okay. And if you can't find that, you just call customer service and they'll be glad to help you out.
Perfect. Thank you. So with that, I think that concludes the questions and comments from the board. We'll now open it up to any questions from the public. If I can see you, if you can raise your hand. If I can't see you, you might want to put your name in the chat. Okay. Oh, I see Keith Thompson. Keith?
Hello, everyone. My name is Keith Thompson. I do work for Indiana University. I've had the opportunity to address there's been 3 different Zooms on this subject with the subcommittees and CBU. I just wanted to express our view on this rate case. I do serve as the Assistant Vice President for Facility Operations, so I'm in charge of all facility operations for the Bloomington campus, and I'm in charge of all their utilities. So having started with that statement, IU is not happy with a 40% rate increase, even though it's coming in 2 phases. I just want to make sure that this utility board recognizes that we're not happy with this type of a rate increase. And we're looking at a 17.3% increase in phase 1 with a secondary increase of 19.1%. I believe the resolution that's going to go to the council talks about not trying to have a rate shock to customers. This is a rate shock to Indiana University. And I just wanted to express our general sentiment about the rate case itself. We've looked over the documents that have been provided. It's not the actual cost of service study that shows each of the allocators and how they were developed. For Indiana University, we have significant infrastructure already on this campus. We have over $14 million of water piping infrastructure on the Bloomington campus. So we distribute water to a lot of the buildings here in Bloomington. And we don't feel like our investment on this campus is being considered in this rate increase with CBU. Also, there's been some comments made about going to a cost of service based rate. Historically, I used to be a rate consultant a long time ago in my career. I have filed testimony in cost of service cases before the IURC, and typically rate subsidies happen the other way around. Typically, the industrial commercial customers are subsidizing the residential customers. That's typical. Now, I can't say I'm not gotten in the weeds on this case to see if the opposite is going on here in the water rates in Bloomington. But typically, if you're trying to go to a cost of service based rate, the IURC will not allow an entity to do that all in one fell swoop. You have to slowly move to cost of service based rate over a series of rate increases and not all in one fell case. So if we get to that point, IU will likely intervene in the case and hire our own expert witnesses and try to work through the allocation process with CBU. Also, we want to make comments, just about maybe we should slow down this capital improvement. We believe infrastructure is very important. I'm an electrical engineer myself, and we are constantly making improvements on the Bloomington campus for steam, chilled water, electricity, water, sewer, all the utilities. So we are champions of infrastructure improvements. However, in this case, I feel like maybe it's being accelerated a little too quickly, and maybe some of these increases should be spread out over a longer period of time, or until the debt's paid off. I know you've got a lot of debt rolling off your books in 2028. Maybe we should delay some of this infrastructure improvements until after some of that debt has been paid off. So we have seen some of the documents here. We are definitely interested in what happens, and we're just trying to protect, the rates that we charge students in the city of Bloomington, to come to IU. And this is a big increase for us, and we just wanted this board to understand our general opposition to this significant of a rate increase all at one time. So that is really my statement here. Just want to make sure that you understood the sentiment from Indiana University. Thank you.
Keith, thank you very much for your comments and sharing that information with us. And I am sure this won't be the last we'll be hearing from you on this, and appreciate the discourse, and hope that we can work through this. Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment? Holly, do you see any from the Facebook page? No.
This is Nolan in for Holly. There's no comments on the Facebook page or on the Zoom chat.
Okay, so if there's no further commentary or questions, then I believe we are calling for a motion to approve this, to continue to move this through the process. So is there a motion to approve resolution 2021-1?
Move to approve.
I'm sorry, can I jump in for just a second, Amanda? I don't know if the board as a whole would like to review the resolution itself before it's approved. And so I was going to throw that out there. I'm happy to run through the resolution for the board before it approves the resolution recommending.
Chris did.
I'm sorry?
I said, I just wanted to let everyone know on the board that the resolution was reviewed point by point by the finance committee too. So we've gone through each point, but it's an excellent thing if any other board members would like to go through it further or have questions of Chris. No? All right, great. Thank you, Chris, for bringing that up. Seeing no further questions, then is there a motion to approve?
I already moved.
Oh, thank you, Jeff. So is there a second?
Second.
I think that was Julie. Was that Julie? Thank you. So Latrina, would you go ahead and call the roll? Oh, Latrina, if you're calling it, we can, there we go. If you could turn.
Parmenter?
Yes.
Burnham?
Yes.
Sherman?
Let me just say before I vote that, this is a tough time for everyone. Indiana University for sure, commercial for sure. Can you imagine the trouble that restaurants and other establishments are happening now, for residents for sure. It's a tough time for everyone. But I think the idea that we could put this off and do it at a better year, you know, the likelihood of bad things happening to our infrastructure is a real possibility. And then it will cost more money. So we understand that this hurts, but we're trying to do the best we can for our city and our ratepayers. So I support the resolution. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's see here. Roberts?
Yes.
Bennett?
Abstain.
Eamon?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
So with that, the motion is, the resolution is approved. At this point, I'd like to announce that if there are any petitions or communications from the public on other items, please feel free to enter those on the Facebook chat or on the Zoom chat. We'll continue through the agenda. If there's any old business from those staff, any old business from the board, any new business from staff?
None.
New business from the board. Subcommittee reports. We did have the finance subcommittee meetings, which was previously reported on during the resolution. Were there any other committee meetings? Great, thank you. Are there any reports from staff?
Nothing detailed at this time. We will be wanting to have to start in the coming weeks, having some ongoing discussions about facilities and facilities planning for the utility as a whole. So we would be, I presume that's the facilities subcommittee. So at this point, I think what to anticipate is we'd like to initiate some discussions about just long-term issues as we're going through the master planning process about Winston Thomas and some other things. We just want to have feel the board members out and see what kinds of things we can do. So watch for that in the coming weeks. Other than that, I've been talking enough tonight, so thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Vic. Are there any petitions or communications from the public?
There are no comments on Facebook.
So great. Well, thank you, everyone. If there's no other business, is there a motion to adjourn our meeting?
So moved.
All right. Thank you again to everyone.